This death wasn't caused by a monster-making virus. It was greed. Human greed.
I was being mind-controlled by Wesker. All I wanted was to kill you. All of you. I was conscious, but I couldn't stop myself.
Jill Valentine is without a doubt the most beloved female character in the entire Resident Evil franchise. It has been 15 years and counting since her last canonical appearance in the Resident Evil timeline, and many fans, including myself, have been requesting and honestly demanding for her return in a new Resident Evil game. With the new game being announced in development not too long ago, I decided to finally make this video covering her story. Now, as I'm recording this video, the game has not been officially revealed, but this video will either be released in a few days as I'm doing so, or it'll drop around the time Resident Evil 9 is revealed. Reason why is because I think a lot of people have been anticipating a Jill return in that particular game. But without further ado, be sure to leave a like to help this video reach the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel for more RV content like this in the near future. And now, let's get into it. In the early 1990s, Jill served in the United States Army and got the attention of recruiters for Delta Force, the nation's primary counterterrorism unit. Although the unit does not enlist women, she was allowed to take part in the 6-month intensive operator training course, where she excelled in bomb disposal and lockpicking and was known for her delicate and nimble though precise dexterity, as well as resilience and courage amid danger. This experience made Jill one of the only women in the world with Delta Force training, capable of dismantling even the most intricate explosives in a matter of minutes. During her time in the US Army, she met fellow soldier Forrest Spare, who would later work with her more closely in the future. She left the military in pursuit of experiences that made her feel more alive, as well as to assuage her sense of justice and intolerance for those who harm innocent people, which is where we go into 1996. Jill was recruited by Albert Wesker for the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, aka S.T.A.R.S, an elite unit of Raccoon Police Department that relied on military veterans and weapons-trained scientists to solve serious crimes in Raccoon City. Despite keeping her Special Forces training and personal life a secret, she made friends with several S.T.A.R.S members during this time, including Chris Redfield, with whom she developed a close friendship and partnership with in the near future, and under whom she often demanded to be trained in marksmanship. In the spring and early summer of 1998, Raccoon City was haunted by the deaths of a number of hikers and suburban families, which involved both vicious dog attacks and group cannibalism. With the RPD at a loss, S.T.A.R.S was ordered into the Arclay Mountains in search for a suspected hideout. Bravo team was sent out on the night of July 23rd, and contact was subsequently lost. The following day, the Alpha team was sent out to investigate their disappearance and continue their investigation. Alpha team was confronted by a pack of dogs who then killed Joseph Frost. Jill, along with Wesker, Chris, and Barry, fled into a nearby mansion, while Brad and Shock fled to the helicopter and abandoned the team. After entering the mansion, the four split up and embark on their own nightmares, encountering zombies that would turn into Crimson Heads if you didn't burn them, hunters, a large snake, and many sharks. The mansion was filled with horrors beyond their imagination. When later on meeting back with Barry, she began to suspect Barry was working against the team, owing to a series of suspicious actions, but later discovered Wesker had manipulated Barry with threats against his family. Wesker was in fact on a mission from Umbrella to retrieve bioweapons research, then destroy the laboratory and kill the S.T.A.R.S team to silence witnesses. The dog attacks and cannibal murders were found to have been a result of the T-virus, a bioweapon which had leaked out into the surrounding area. With Wesker faking his death when activating a renegade bioweapon designated known as the Tyrant, Jill, Chris, Barry, and Bravo team's Rebecca Chambers escaped the lab before its destruction on Vickers' helicopter. Once back in Raccoon City, S.T.A.R.S' request for a full-scale investigation of Umbrella's activities was denied by their superior, Chief of Police Brian Irons. Their investigation was stalled by Irons' stonewalling and burying of reports, as well as Umbrella's surveillance, severely restricting their activities, with no support from the American government either. Chris, Barry, and Jill traveled to Europe to investigate Umbrella by themselves. Chief Irons was involved in the wrongdoings, and his story is for another day. Chris went ahead alone to Europe in late August, while Barry relocated with his family in Canada. Jill left the city under the pretense of leaving, but to shake off Umbrella's surveillance and traitors within the police force, she secretly returned to Raccoon City in hiding to investigate the Umbrella's underground facility before joining her comrades afterward. This plan, however, for Jill backfired entirely with what happened afterwards to Raccoon City. When the T-virus entered the water supply of the city, thousands of people turned into the exact zombies she saw in the Spencer mansion. Umbrella took full advantage of the situation and sent in experimental BOWs to test on the survivors. Among these was the Nemesis T-type, a T-103 tyrant parasited by the Nemesis Alpha parasite. This creature was also dubbed as the Pursuer, was sent into the city specifically to track down and eliminate the S.T.A.R.S members. There were 2 remaining S.T.A.R.S members in Raccoon City, Brad Vickers, and Jill Valentine. She was trapped in her apartment for September 27th and 28th, contemplating the S word that is a very sensitive topic. Changing her mind, Valentine fled through the streets of Raccoon City. She found Brad, but was injured by zombies at the Blackjack bar. He died soon after when Nemesis tracked him down to the police station entrance. Exploring the station alone while evading the Nemesis, Jill soon discovered that it was no longer safe. In the S.T.A.R.S office, she intercepted an Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service radio signal from Carlos Oliveira and abandoned the police station to investigate, eventually meeting him, also known as the UBCS. Over the course of the night of the 28th, Jill worked with 3 UBCS members, Captain Mikhail Victor, Sergeant Nikolai Zinovev, and Corporal Oliveira. She did this reluctantly due to their association with Umbrella, though it became clear they were merely mercenaries sent out as sacrificial lambs rather than actual employees. Jill worked with Nikolai and Carlos to repair a tram they were hiding in. Victor was too wounded to help. Accounts differ on what happened during that search, as one claimed that Nikolai was presumed dead and the remaining 3 drove the team to St. Michael's Clock Tower, which had been flagged by the UBCS as an evac point prior to their insertion. Nemesis attacked the tram and Victor sacrificed himself with a grenade in an attempt to destroy it. Jill and Carlos made it out of the wreckage, but Nemesis stalked Jill throughout the tower as she tried to ring its bell as a signal. The creature then destroyed the UBCS helicopter to deny her escape, and in another fight with him, Valentine was infected with the T-virus strain unique to the Nemesis parasites. She was unconscious for 2 days in a chapel within the clock tower, guarded by Carlos until she woke up in the early hours of October 1st. Understanding that she was infected, Carlos went to the Raccoon General Hospital in search of treatments, and returned later with the vaccine the hospital staff worked on before they died. While searching through Raccoon Park, Jill was confronted by Nikolai, whose survival had been deliberately kept secret to her. He revealed that Umbrella was using the outbreak to test the effectiveness of the BOWs, and so Jill escaped to Incineration Disposal Plant P-12A, a dedicated treatment plant for infected biomatter, where she discovered that the city would be destroyed. There, she fought the Nemesis again, now severely disfigured after exposure to antiviral chemicals in the disposal plant. She then activated an experimental rail cannon developed by the Delta Force. The creature was weakened further by Jill, and left for dead after several shots from a Magnum, capping it off with one of the many iconic one-liners in the Resident Evil franchise. After destroying Nemesis, Jill then escaped the city with Carlos and discovered the man looking for her in the helicopter was Barry. If anything, this motivated Jill even more to take down Umbrella once and for all. Following the destruction of Raccoon City, she continued to support Chris in fighting Umbrella. By 2003, they had joined a private anti-biohazard service. In February, the group received reports of strange animal attacks near a small village in the Greater Caucasus, similar to the Arclay incident. Jill and Chris investigated the village and found it had already fallen to a T-virus outbreak, leaving a young child, Anna, as the only uninfected survivor, having been hidden by her parents. Escaping the building, they ran into Wesker, who was also investigating the reports for his own purposes. He could not be apprehended, however, due to the sudden arrival of hunters. The two did discover from him, however, that the villagers were involved with Umbrella and were storing BOWs. Wesker seized Anna's locket and used it to open a safe in her house to get information on the company. They narrowly escaped the explosion of a bomb, planted there in case Wesker or someone like him would try to open it. Though Jill and Chris had failed to stop Wesker's escape, they did find proof that the nearby chemical works was an Umbrella base. The following day, Chris and Jill took part in a large operation with the rest of the private anti-biohazard service to capture the chemical plant and end BOW production there. They arrived to find the biohazard had completely engulfed the facility. The former leader of Umbrella's UBCS and were made to fight Tialos, a computer-aided armored tyrant. That tyrant was successfully taken down against Colonel Vladimir's expectations and the facility was captured. However, they failed to gain access to Umbrella's data, as Wesker had finally wiped its hard drive. Umbrella nonetheless fell. In the aftermath of the Raccoon trials, Umbrella's bankruptcy rendered its security forces incapable of preventing a number of rogue employees from stealing bioweapon samples and selling them to the black market. The War on Terror saw a gradual shift towards these bioweapons, requiring new methods of combating them. A number of pharmaceutical giants formed the BSAA in the United Kingdom, which would assist as needed. However, the BSAA was far from perfect as a private military company, and they were kept in an observer role during the 2004 Terror Grisha panic by the US government's much larger alternative, the FBC. Suspecting that the FBC was involved in arming terrorist groups like Veltro to build up its prestige, BSAA Director Clive R. O'Brien planned a major operation to uncover the truth, but the presence of an FBC mole necessitated the use of deceptive tactics on its own agents. Starting in the summer of 2005, Jill and her partner Parker Luciani were invited to the Italian coast to see the ruins of Terra Grigia, where dead and some still alive globsters were washing ashore and a vial of T-Abyss virus was found. The corpses in the vial would soon be determined to have come from Queen Dido, one of 3 ships used by Veltro in the attack, but which had sunk within the FBC's exclusion zone and could not be explored. O'Brien fed false information to the pair that Chris and Jill were abducted by terrorists while exploring Finland and taken into the Mediterranean. The two BSAA agents went out to sea in a small boat and found the Queen Zenobia, which was overrun by T-Abyss mutants. The presence of FBC agents on board was quickly confirmed when FBC agent Rachel Foley's unconsciousness and assumed dead body was found deprived of water following an attack by mutants. Opening a room with a Velcro flag and a mannequin strapped to a chair, the two BSAA agents found that they had fallen into a trap and were knocked out by a man in a gas mask. That was in fact Raymond Vester, one of O'Brien's moles within the FBC, whose role in the operation was to steer them towards the truth while giving the impression Veltro really did survive. Raymond was still doing his shady tactics while Chris and Jessica eventually met up with Jill and Parker. However, the four rendezvoused into the ship's casino, where they were met by Vester in the gas mask. While explaining the nature of the conspiracy, he was shot by Jessica, revealing her as the spy. Protected by a bulletproof vest but feigning death, he warned Parker about her. Jill and Chris meanwhile made their way to the rear of the ship, which housed a laboratory complex. Their investigation finally uncovered the truth. FBC Director Morgan Lansdale was behind the engineering of T-Abyss in order to create a dangerous viral weapon for Veltro. Providing 3 ships to transport their cargo to Terra Grigia, he unleashed a biohazard on board, wiping out Veltro, then used the 2 remaining ships for classified vaccine research. Once the vaccine was finished, a second biohazard was unleashed, killing the researchers, leaving Queen Zenobia and Samarinas unmanned. Realizing they had uncovered the truth, Lansdale himself, watching the pair on a monitor, triggered Queen Samarinas' self-destruct system, and expected Sherwa to do the same. When she does so, Jill and Chris make their escape from the sinking ship on a BSAA helicopter, under attack by a BOW named Malakota, parasitic worms in the body of a mutant whale. Following the battle, they were given one more mission, to retrieve evidence incriminating the FBC from within the Queen Dido's wreckage. During their exploration, the two found a section of the ship with breathable air, the few remaining unflooded hallways being the home of Veltro leader Jack Norman. For the past year, the FBC had however already beaten them to the ship. Norman infected himself with another sample of T-Abyss virus and turned into a powerful monster dubbed the Ultimate Abyss. The BSAA agents could not persuade Jack Norman that they were not FBC, and were forced to kill him in order to retrieve the evidence, which they found to be recordings of Veltro's meetings with Lansdale, proving that he had provided them with the virus. The evidence was transmitted to the BSAA's UK headquarters during an FBC raid, and Lansdale was immediately arrested by his own men. Following his arrest, the FBC was dissolved and all of its personnel and resources were merged into the BSAA and was reformed as a United Nations counterterrorism organization, with greater jurisdiction around the world. Jill then became a special operations agent, and throughout her partnership with Chris, the duo became engaged in various operations including bioterrorism, interdiction in Asia, destroying bioweapon laboratories in South America, and arresting traffickers in Europe. However, the darkest day of Jill's life was only around the corner, and what transpired would change her life dramatically. In 2006, the BSAA received intelligence revealing the location of Dr. Oswald E. Spencer. Spencer was the CEO of Umbrella Pharmaceuticals and had gone underground to hide from a global manhunt led by the US and Russian governments. Jill and Chris were assigned to raid the Spencer estate and arrest him, hoping he would have information useful in the separate manhunt for Albert Wesker. Upon entering the main hall, they found Lord Spencer's bodyguards dead, having been brutalized by a then unknown third party. A search underground revealed a dungeon where numerous prisoners have been experimented on or left to die, with BOWs known as blobs left to roam the dungeon. Returning to the castle above, the two gained entry into the library, finding Spencer dead, having been murdered by Wesker. The two agents fought him, though he had the upper hand due to his superhuman abilities. Believing Chris was close to death, Jill charged at Wesker, throwing him and herself out the library window and down a cliff, all in order to save Chris's life, and was willing to risk hers. The BSAA conducted a search for Jill's body but was never found and presumed dead, which deeply traumatized Chris. But when he found out about her from data Delta Team retrieved, everything involving Chris's mission changed, from business to personal. This sole image changed the trajectory of the mission for Chris and Sheva, motivating him further to find out if his old partner was still alive. Originally, Ricardo Irving was the main suspect to apprehend, or kill, but it got deeper. Though badly injured by the fall down the cliff, Jill was kept alive by Wesker, kept in a comatose condition by Tricell Inc., Africa's top-secret BOW research outpost near Kajuju. Following his own experiences with talking to Spencer, Wesker began work on the Ouroboros Project, a doomsday project which he believed would force evolution on the survivors via a progenitor strain dubbed Ouroboros. The prototype version of Ouroboros was fatal to all the infected, making it impractical for use. Nonetheless, Jill was slated in Wesker's vengeful plan to be the very first test subject for the complete project in the near future. During the preliminary examination of her body, it was discovered that the vaccination she received in 1998 for her T virus infection had not only immunized her, a mutant strain of the virus had in fact laid dormant in her body for the past 8 years. and had activated during her time in the coma. Jill's body quickly fought off the mutant virus and created new highly pure antibodies. This anomalous resistance made her worthless as an early-stage test subject, though she was spared for further study. Wesker theorized that exposure to Valentine's antibodies would give way to an Ouroboros strain, more tolerable to the human body, and kept her alive as a quote-unquote living factory to derive the antibodies from her blood, by administering the T-virus to her. In her medically induced stasis, her hair became blonde and her skin whitened. Under even further control by Wesker, she was ordered to protect Irving in his planned business dealings. At a warehouse the BSAA knew Irving was to use, she left behind a Kajuju man, abducted and forcibly infected with Ouroboros. That exact mutant massacred the BSAA's Alpha team, and she and Irving escaped to a nearby quarry to continue the deal. This deal ultimately never took place, however, and Irving would order the release of the BOW specimens to fight the BSAA. When an SOA team consisting of Chris and Sheva cornered Irving, Jill set off a smoke bomb and escaped with him to Irving's oil field. At that oil field, Jill gave Irving an ultimatum. He knew too much to allow his capture by the BSAA, nor could the BSAA be allowed to track their departure from the oil to the Tricell facility. Over the next day, Irving rigged the oil field with bombs to be set off if the BSAA caught up with them. In the event the pursuit continued, Irving was provided with the dominant species Plaga egg to inject into his own body. Jill later on escaped and met up with Wesker and Excella while Irving died. Later on, Wesker reveals her and Chris is taken back from knowing his partner was still alive after 3 years of believing she was dead. But something felt off about her. She and Wesker fought Chris and Sheva for 7 minutes. Afterwards, it was revealed that in that cutscene of what the P-30 device was doing to her. Realizing the device on her chest was affecting her behavior, the two forced her to the ground and ripped it out. Still weak from the fighting, she stayed behind and urged the two to continue on and passed out afterwards. Jill was found by Josh Stone, who had separated from Chris and Sheva to radio BSAA HQ. Having returned with helicopter backup, Jill warned him about the tanker and agreed to come with him, as the helicopter was their only means to intercept it. After they found the tanker, she succeeded in picking up Chris. She informed him of a vulnerability of Wesker's that she learned about her captivity. He requires regular injection of PG-678W and that an overdose would be lethal. Jill and Josh were chased by increasing numbers of Majini, forcing their assigned helicopter pilot Doug to pick them up much closer than planned. Though they made it onto the helicopter, Doug himself was killed when rebel forces carrying rocket launchers made their move. Josh flew the helicopter to where Wesker's aircraft crashed inside the volcano. When Wesker was inside the lava, she handed Chris and Sheva RPGs to deliver the killing blow to Resident Evil's main antagonist once and for all. Now I know I might come off as a complainer in all this, but I personally think Jill should have shot the RPG with Chris. No disrespect to Sheva at all, I love her, but for story reasons purposely. This man has been your enemy for over 10 years, kept you in cryostasis and under his control for 3 years, made you be responsible for the deaths of your comrades and Alpha Team, attempting to kill your former partner, all under the control of the device Wesker created specifically for you. It's just a small nitpick I have, nothing major nonetheless. After returning from Africa, Jill was taken into a BSAA lab to undergo various tests due to her long-term viral exposure and drug overdoses. It was revealed that the side effects of the T-virus affected the cell division in her body, which suppressed her physical deterioration, but left her with psychological after effects. She convinced her friend and former S.T.A.R.S member Barry to join the BSAA. After 6 long years of rehab, Jill finally returned to the field. However, still suffering from the psychological after effects from the P-30 drugs and maintaining the heavy guilt during her time under Wesker, she started to develop the desire for atonement for her actions, in which she expressed through reckless actions. Much to Chris's concern, who had taken notice her change of behavior. In San Francisco, California, there had been reports of victims becoming mysteriously infected with no means of transmission and attacking others who quickly succumbed to their injuries instead of reanimation. The BSAA then took interest and partnered with the SFPD in a joint investigation with Chris and Jill acting as the lead agents on the case. When another case occurred in the city, Jill investigated a couple's homestead. Despite Chris's orders waiting for backup, she cut off her comms. She encounters the zombies and kills them in more so reckless fashion. Jill went to the shooting range to train, where Chris visited and expressed his desire of removing her from further participation in the operation due to his growing concerns, but she firmly declined the notion. Jill recounted her years under Wesker's control and wanting her friends dead, to which she compares it to a living nightmare. Chris warns her not to let the numbness reach her soul lest she loses herself in the fight, but Jill looks at the present mission. Innocent people are being made to kill as she once had been, and wants whoever is responsible taken to justice above anything else, and cannot allow to think of herself when fighting to stop bioterrorism. In the BSAA laboratory, Jill and Chris met Claire, who had been conducting her own investigation into the orca carcass that washed ashore on the beach, and BSAA advisor Rebecca Chambers to discuss their findings. Claire discovers that the chipped orca had been swimming near the vicinity of Alcatraz Island. Similarly, the orca is infected with the same strain of T-virus found in the human corpses, confirming a link. The Redfields and Jill head over to the former prison-turned-tourist site while Rebecca was left behind in order to create vaccines for the virus strain. The tourists are quickly turned and attack others much to their confusion. The three try to save the remaining survivors, with Jill attempting to save a prison guard who falls into the sewage tunnel. However, their efforts are proved to be futile as they are left as the sole survivors. Jill explores the sewers where she is ambushed by Leon Kennedy, whose mission has led him there. The two recognize each other and are confronted by zombie tourists before facing hordes of amphibian lickers. The pair fails to conceal themselves and alerts the hordes, while both escape thanks to Leon using an explosive barrel. Jill and Leon share information on their respective missions and determine that their cases are linked. Sensing a draft, Leon breaks open a wall, exposing a secret accessway which leads to the armory where licker larvae are incubating. As they investigate the armory, they discover blueprints of the mosquito drones which had been infecting people in the prison and around the city. Knowing they are nearby, the mastermind beckons them to the prison cells where they hold the Redfields captive. Rushing to the compound, Jill and Leon are reunited with the siblings who are experiencing worsening symptoms of the virus and another survivor whom Leon identifies as Dr. Antonio Taylor, a lead robotics engineer who sells classified information to foreign entities outside of USA, much to their shock. The masterminds reveal themselves to be the former mercenary Dylan Blake and Maria Gomez, who Leon and Chris knew about, with the former revealing his intention to punish corporations, organizations, and agencies that benefited from bioterrorism, including the BSAA, DSO, and TerraSafe. Without working real solutions towards ending bioterror, he was plotting to release drones that carry doses of the T-virus across the world, leaving them to control which individuals become infected and clean the world's slate. In proving his point that justice does not exist, Blake spares Jill of infection but forces her to live through his experience, in which she is forced to shoot Claire or let Taylor die at the former hands. After Dylan shoots Taylor, Leon tosses a flashbang to buy Jill time to escape, and she does so running back to the tunnel where she finds Rebecca carrying 3 vaccines for the infected Chris, Claire, and Leon. Dylan proceeds with his plan while Maria was killed at the hands of Leon. With Jill confronting him, he infects himself with the T-virus and fuses with the Megalodon BOW Rebecca encountered before, creating a larger and more powerful BOW. The four do their best to take him down, with Jill doing the most damage thanks to a railgun. Dylan tries to escape in the water, but Chris and Leon fire off a large bazooka, shooting the hinges and pins Dylan by his neck with the large gate. Jill delivers the final blow with the bags of grenades, leaving it in Dylan's mouth. The group celebrates their successful efforts as they prevent another outbreak from occurring. Outside the island, the group reminisce about their time in the operation before reinforcements arrive, and evacuate the survivors off the premises, with Redfield happy her old self is back, to which she shares the same sentiment. Canonically speaking, it has been 15 years video game-wise since her last appearance and is currently 48 years old. The request for her to be back in RE9 or any future game is peaking as we speak, and we are just wondering if Capcom will listen. With the RE8 cliffhanger of the BSAA turning rotten, it seems destined for her return to the series that we have been waiting for so long, and I personally believe we may get that. The game has been officially announced in development. All we are waiting for now is the reveal in the near future. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button for more content like this in the near future, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, and much love.